Continuation to Fair and Balance from Weaver, Johnson, Roseman, California. The guy that has a diary of a graver named John Weaver, which is me, in Roseman, California, the west side of town. It is currently 10 before 9 o'clock in the morning. West Coast time for Monday, the 1st of June, 2026. Okay, shall we continue this one? Sorry about the interruption there, Farron, but the problem is I've got medical insurance calling me up, either doctors confirming, doctors denying, and doctors disappearing on me left and right. You gotta love health insurance, especially when mental health and physical health mean something. And speaking of which, shall we go back over to what we were talking about? Concerning about your research into Delaware. If you had checked out Citizen United versus Federal Elections Commission, we were trying to make sure that the corporations were going to be submitted and looked upon as corporations, therefore subjugated to Congress, where there'll be rules, regulations, guidelines for them to operate. And unfortunately, with the conservative majority we had, a 5-4 decision, that made the corporations persons. Now, this also meant, because we are dealing with the Federal Election Commission at this point over here, how much can a person be donating? Usually up to $2,500 or something like that per person. Corporations would have to be subjugated to whatever they would have to be, even for their donations to the candidates. This is all about political control. But think about the political control. Those two words right there. Because now you have the corporations being looked as an entity, a person. Delaware was updating their policies concerning about voting, about how smaller towns could look upon their constituencies, non-resident and residents. And corporations, according to what Delaware's charter was, and several other towns, were saying corporations can be non-entities and therefore vote as a person. But the ACLU had tried, they kept trying at this point over here, to tell them that it's one person, one vote. The corporations are not a person. Corporations are businesses. Didn't emphasize on that one enough, that the businesses had gotten the authorization through a conservative court to be treated as a person, and therefore we're screwing over people left and right. You didn't kind of put that kind of slant in there, dude. And because of that, ACLU tried, and you think they're going to fail again? Delaware is already allowing this thing, and you want to add salt to the injury right now as it is? Did you happen to look at the voting demographics? Please do so. Put it into your search engine. I had to, and I looked at the images of what was going on. The area of Fenwick is an isthmus of sorts, much like Galveston is in Texas. It's a highly conservative area. Not quite blue, but not totally red. But Fenwick changed their charter. They had about over 30 plus. Hang on. Since I'm over at Wikipedia, the town of Fenwick. Fenwick Island, that we call it. That's also in the coastal resort town of Sussex County. Shall we go there? Fenwick Island? Let's go there. So, in Wikipedia, it is a coastal town in Sussex County, Delaware, according to the 2020 census figures. We've got about 355 people over there. Not much, right? However, dude, this is a vacation resort. Gets worse. Gets worse. They have elections. They have demographics. You got a section about demographics. Shall we take a look at that? Let's go. Okay, well, let's see. We had increasing people from 1960 from 48 people to 343 plus. But the thing is what I'm looking for at this point is what about the politics? What about the politics? We've got history, transportation, we've got elections. Here we go. Fenwick Island is one of the several Delaware towns that gives corporations and other legal entities voting power in municipal elections. Did you not say this to the people? Of a little bit more specific information instead of the usual diatribe? Delaware Superior Court judge, and this is recent. When they got the information here, they plugged it in here. So, Delaware Superior Court Judge Craig Carsonitz ruled that Fenwick Island's permission of these votes did not violate the election clause of Delaware's Constitution, which reads, "One election, all elections shall be free and equal." Now, I know you're fuming at this one. How can corporations get away with it? Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission. And Citizens United won. Can I say that again? Won. By 1 vote margin of the conservative court. You didn't even say that one either. You didn't do your due diligence on this one because you need to give the people more information about what's going on. Because this damn thing had screwed up everybody. And I mean everybody. There were 2 court cases that were torn apart. And this Citizen United was the override. There is court cases on this one. That it's very sickening of what we've gone through. And how this affects everything down the road. And you're right, but you didn't say it concerning about if the Supreme Court was going to rule. You didn't. But because it is a majority on a conservative, they will rule in favor of the corporations because of that ruling of Citizens versus Federal Election Commission. Once I get my video processed in here, I've got to get the links put into the description in the comment sections to give people an understanding what the hell they're dealing with right now. Because right now, this shit's happening. It is on. And you can't hide from it. You gotta talk about this damn crap. Because this is what we're dealing with. And let's add more salt to the injured wound right now. Delaware Constitution. Yeah, like I'm going to be schooling you on something that you should have already figured out. If you were legal, how come you didn't do your due diligence on this one? Jeez. That's right, I got to do your homework for you. All right. Delaware Constitution of 1897 as amended. Now, there's an Article 9 in here dealing with elections, but also dealing with corporations. We have Article 5 dealing with elections. I got to get that one marked. And then we've got Article 9 actually is corporations. Article 5 is the elections. Article 9 will talk about the corporations, anything to do what corporations do. but them considered to be as one person. Said before, you can blame citizen for that one. As for the elections, qualifications for voting members of the armed services, voting interest rate, last voting, registered voters, strike name, absentee, voting machines, offenses, prosecutions, terminations. Somewhere in there they were talking about it. But since they considered several other places in Delaware as conservative, they wanted to treat corporations as such. I'm going to be looking at the town's Fenwick Island Constitution. Of course, they've got court cases talking about this one. But what I need to find out is I wanted to see Fenwick Island's charter. Because in there, they'll see it. ACLU can go insane over this damn thing. Here we go. Okay, Delaware Government, Fenwick Island Charter. We've got that one. It's under charters.delaware.gov/FenwickIsland.html. Talk about territorial limits. Recorded plot evidence in court. Government. Designation of persons to serve on town council until the first regular municipal elections. Nominations to elective offices. Election card. Qualification of voters. They would consider the corporations as non-resident, meaning the corporations don't live there. But according to what Delaware allows, and also what Citizen allowed, this is the thing we really should be having connections with and throwing up on. Let me go over the qualifications for the voters for you. Section 9 of the charters of Fenwick Island. Voter qualifications for the resident. Every natural person who is a citizen of the state of Delaware in the United States, age 18, on or before the date of the election, bona fide resident of the town prior to the annual municipal election, and registered to vote 30 or more days prior to the annual municipal election, if provided by ordinance, shall have one vote. For purposes of this Section 9, bona fide resident means a permanent, full-time resident of the town. The following documentation may be considered as a registrar in determining whether a person is a bona fide resident of the town under this section. The registrar does not need to be presented with all of the following documentations in order to conclude that a person qualifies to vote in the annual municipal election as a bona fide resident of the town. And of course, we're talking about state license, driver's license, address, government ID card, voter registration card, current photo ID of something. The kind of documentation that be recently and commonly accepted as proof of address. But here comes the fun part. Here comes the fun part. Non-residents. Ready? Good. Every property owner, as of March 1st, prior to the annual municipal election, whether a natural person or an artificial entity, Hello, corporation. Included but not limited to corporations, partnerships, trusts, and limited liability companion companies, and who is registered to vote, if provided by ordinance, shall have one vote. A natural person shall be a citizen of the United States in age of 18 on or before the date of election, and an artificial entity shall be a domestic entity in the state of Delaware. These provisions shall be construed in accordance with the principle of the one person, entity, one vote. Where a voter is entitled to vote by virtue of being both resident and as an owner of real property, the owner shall be entitled to only one vote. Where a voter is entitled to vote by ownership of two or more parcels of real estate property, the voter shall only have one vote. Any legal entity other than a natural person entitled to vote must cast its vote by a duly executed and notarized power of attorney from the legal entity, granting the authority to cast its vote to the designated attorney. In fact, such power of the attorney shall be surrendered to the election officials, who shall file the same in the office of the town. Such power of the attorney so filed shall constitute conclusive evidence of the right of said person to vote in the election on behalf of the legal entity granting the power. The person casting the ballot for such an entity shall be age of 18 on or before the date of the election and a citizen of the United States. Catch all that? And if you were of legal minded in stature, you would have already known this shit. You would have already done your due diligence on this one. Me, I'm going for fun. Originally, I was supposed to be an English major, and then decided because we had so much political crap, I'd switch over to political science for the major. And I'm going through community college, not a university. Because in a community college, as a student, we have to research. If we're going to be doing our reports, you know what it's like when you're going through university level or college level, that the professors want works cited. They want bibliography. They want something that's going to be solid here and not shit that's paraphrased. No, paraphrased is what was it? To be stolen from everybody else, pilfered, pillaged, plundered, plagiarized would be the word for it, wouldn't it? Okay. So while you're overreacting, I'm overreacting over the situation over here, and you had me thinking about a lot of stuff on this one. Because this can affect everybody, and you didn't state in that particular form of function why. You just wanted to get the emotional outburst. I swear to God, you need to do your due diligence and tell the people about this crap, because if you don't and provide the evidence enough, Bloomberg is not enough. Bloomberg is not enough. You must have been on a rush job. The things I deal with you independents out there. My God. That being said,